growing number of Republicans are now taking jabs at Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who has really seemed to abandon the state of Florida as he has already engaged in some campaigning. Now, keep in mind that Florida is dealing with some pretty serious crises right now, including flooding and also a fuel shortage. But nonetheless, Ronnie's got a campaign. He is thinking about running for president. So with that said, what is the important message that he abandoned Florida for to speak to the fine people of Spartanburg, South Carolina about? Let's watch.
Because the woke represents a war on truth, we have no other recourse but to wage a war on woke. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the corporations. We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
So that's his campaign message. Ron DeSantis is in a lot of trouble. Now he's already gone to Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, where he was giving that speech. So obviously he's visiting and barnstorming early caucus states. And several hours after he gave that speech, Marco Rubio essentially, I would venture to say, tweeted about him without mentioning him by name. We're gonna get to that in just a second. You don't wanna miss it. Cenk, what are your thoughts?
I like that drums that we're gonna get to. But I just wanna ask Ron DeSantis, is woke in the room with us now?
Should we be scared?
Yeah, okay, where's the woke? Where's the woke? Okay, guys, look, everybody they take these terms like socialist, woke, and then they just put whatever they want into it. So can you find extreme examples of wokeism? Yeah, you can actually, okay? And we've spoken out against it. But do they mean that? Sometimes they mean that. A lot of times what they mean is like, can you believe they want to say the word gay in a high school? That's crazy, right? I mean, can you believe that they want to teach that slavery was racist? Woke. No, we're gonna fight woke on the beaches. You're doing a church line on woke? I mean, you're a self-parody, dude. Saturday Night Live doesn't have to be in business anymore because these guys just parody themselves.
They literally banned a book called Tango Makes Three, a children's book about two penguins who adopted an orphan penguin.
I mean, that does sound evil.
That's super woke. Oh my gosh, thank you, Meatball Ron. Thank you for protecting the fine folks of Florida from those evil, illustrations of penguins.
And look, if there's one problem that Florida definitely has, it's woke penguins. These guys are jokes.
Now, several hours after he spoke, all of a sudden, Marco Rubio puts out an interesting video, to say the least, to highlight some of the serious problems that Florida is facing today. Let's watch.
What's happening right now in Miami and in Fort Lauderdale with gasoline is crazy. You can't find gasoline anywhere. This has been going on since Sunday, and they're blaming it on the floods that impacted the port. And I know that was a factor, but it's been 4 days. This should have been figured out by now. And they're blaming it on consumer panic. Yeah, people are panicked because they got to get to work. They got places to go. And you either can't find gas or you have to wait in line for like 2 hours down the street where you're probably gonna run out of gas while you're waiting. So yeah, people are panicked. And of course they're filling up, saying don't fill up. Of course you're gonna fill up because you don't know the next time you're gonna have to make a 2 hour line. And they keep saying it's gonna get better, but it's not. They gotta get this thing fixed. This is crazy.
So that is true. There are fuel shortages in South Florida. Now, the flooding from the downpour that the state was dealing with last week might have something to do with that. But the point that he's highlighting here is Florida is struggling right now. We need to do something about it. This is crazy. And he put this out just a few hours after Ron DeSantis spoke about wokeism in South Carolina. But if you think I'm really stretching here, because he didn't name Ron DeSantis, so he could just be concerned about the situation in Florida and not worry about Ron DeSantis at all. But interestingly enough, Politico spoke to a few Republican lawmakers in the state of Florida, and they've got some thoughts about Ron DeSantis. So as Politico reports, lawmakers are actually now stalling a handful of the key remaining legislative priorities that Ron DeSantis has in the state of Florida. And there's only a few weeks until the annual season is over. What started out as whispers in private about unhappiness over the governor are starting to become louder, even though Republican lawmakers remain unwilling to speak out publicly against DeSantis because of his power and clout. One House Republican recently told a former legislator that he was ready to resign out of frustration over how the session was going. Well, how is the session going? Well, apparently DeSantis's announcement this week that he wanted legislators to take aim at Disney has irritated conservative Republicans, conservative Republicans who loathe to target private businesses.
Of course.
Yeah. So one legislator tells Politico, of course they don't want to be named, but this is the quote: "We're not the party of cancel culture. We can't keep doing this tit for tat." And he's specifically referring to Disney there. He's not concerned about the book bans and all the other cancel culture they've engaged in. They absolutely love cancel culture, and they've engaged in it. They've helped Ron DeSantis with that cancel culture agenda. But I have to just mention one thing before I go to you, Cenk. I do find it fascinating that now suddenly Republican lawmakers based in Florida are willing to be critical of Ron DeSantis after one of the big news stories that broke this week was a billionaire Republican donor who previously planned to financially back Ron DeSantis in January. Now flipping and pulling support from Ron DeSantis. He says he doesn't want to support Ron DeSantis over his extreme policies like abortion bans and book bans in Florida. And the billionaire donor that we're talking about is Thomas Peterfy.
Yeah, so two things. On Marco Rubio, that was an interesting shot at DeSantis. He didn't say his name, but he's like, what are we doing? Like, there's a massive gas crisis in Florida. Why isn't someone doing something about it? The second funny thing about that though was people on Twitter were like, you should call your senator from Florida. Oh, right, you're the senator from Florida. Why don't you do something about it, okay? And see, but this is what politics is becoming in America. In the old days, they would actually legislate, they would execute things, they'd get like, people on it in different ways. Hey, how can we get gas? Is it the port? Is it the flooding in the port? How can we fix that, right? Now, everybody's just having press conferences, right? And podcasts and videos. So DeSantis is another state fighting in this mythical war against the woke, right? Meanwhile, Rubio's like, oh, I got a great idea. I'll make a video and put it on Twitter. Okay, I don't know, why don't you call DeSantis and say, hey guys, what are you doing about this? I'm the senator here and I'm pissed. Let's get on it, right? And have your staffs. No, nobody's doing anything. They're not governing at all. And now the Disney thing. Of course, we told you, he's poking the corporate bear. And if there's one thing the Republicans will not tolerate, why do you think they're against Trump? They were for DeSantis and against Trump because they think Trump is not pro-establishment enough, that he won't serve he doesn't believe in just corruption for corporations, he believes in corruption for himself too.
Exactly.
Right? And they're like, no, it's only gotta be for corporations, right? And so DeSantis's brilliant idea was, why don't I piss off all my donors and the people I actually serve, which is corporations, like I think I'll get grassroots support. Like, see, he's a faker. He doesn't really know the grassroots.
No, what's actually really incredible though is Ron DeSantis wasn't smart enough to understand that when Republicans pretend to be anti-corporate, they do it under the context of, oh, they're too woke. They have stances on social issues we don't like. But they don't actually go after the power that these corporations have. They don't go after things like deregulation or the tax benefits that these corporations enjoy, because these are corporations that bribe them. So they do the bidding of these corporations, but provide the illusion of being anti-corporate by speaking this tough talk about like, oh, no, they're woke and we're against them. They're not supposed to actually do anything about it.
100%,
right?
Anna, that's the best point.
But DeSantis is like, oh yeah, we're anti-corporate now. And they spoke out against the bill that I'm endorsing here. So, I mean, it's amazing. So now there's like this infighting among the Republican legislature because the lawmakers are like, we don't really like what he's doing. And now you have donors pulling support from DeSantis, essentially giving these lawmakers the green light to finally start speaking out.
Yeah, DeSantis is not doing a very good job of being a fraud here. They should look into other policies like Donald Trump. Oh, woke corporations, and they'll cut their taxes from 35% to 21%, give them funnel trillions of dollars to them from the American taxpayers.
Exactly.
And then and pretend that I'm against woke corporations. Tucker Carlson every night, oh, big business, terrible, woke corporations, M&Ms, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you wanna regulate them? Oh, no, don't regulate. Give them more tax cuts. Yeah, that's what I thought, bitch, okay?
Exactly.
So DeSantis did two things that were unacceptable. He talked about their tax breaks, and every Republican was like, what, not anything real. No, we have to funnel all the taxpayer money to corporations. What are you doing? That's what we get bribed for. And then he talked about putting a prison next to Disneyland. Yep. They're like, that could hurt corporate profits, you idiot, right? Don't you know who you're, like, he's a butler who doesn't understand who his master is.
Jeff?
So, and the thing is, I'm sorry, real quick. Of course he does. He's just made a strategic error here. He thought he could just poke one corporation while he serves the rest. But he found out, no, you're a Republican. Your job is to be a bitch to all corporations.
That's exactly right. Now, one person who spoke to Politico and did not hide his name is a former Florida State Senator, Jeff Brandes, who said that he's spoken to several Republican lawmakers in Florida. People are deeply frustrated. They are not spending any time on the right problems. Most legislators believe that the balance of power has shifted too far and the legislature needs to reestablish itself as a co-equal branch of government. And by the way, even Florida's GOP legislative leaders, Senate President Kathleen Pasademo and House Speaker Paul Renner on Wednesday declined to endorse DeSantis.
He's really mad. On the other hand, Trump's a mess. And so everybody thought, oh, the arrest's gonna help him so much, blah, 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 blah. He lost 10 points in his lead in the last week, Trump did. Still up by 16 over DeSantis in a legitimate poll, but everyone in politics is a hot mess. DeSantis is, Trump is, Biden is.
We're not winning.
We're not winning with any of these choices. Please give us someone else. And remember, Marianne Williamson is in the race. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.